going to be looking at CSS. So a couple things you need to do on Canvas. Go to the CSS page and open up the CSS Notes. And it is a document that looks like this. And make sure you're following along. If you need to pause and to get the definitions, you can. Yeah, here we go. So this is some CSS code. And the thing I like about CSS is that it is pretty easy to read. So we've never done CSS before, but just by looking at this, you could probably guess what this code is going to do. It's going to change the color of my H1 tag and make it red. Okay, so that's what CSS is real easy to read because it uses regular language. But what the heck is CSS? Put this in your notes. CSS stands for Cascading Styled Sheets. It is a language that is used to describe how HTML elements will be styled. So this is how we change our elements from HTML. We're going to use CSS to tell it, what color to look like, what font to be, where to be on the page, stuff like that. This is a completely new language, so not all the same rules apply. In fact, most of them don't. We don't use angle brackets. We don't use tags. We don't use attributes. Everything in CSS is its own thing. It's a completely new language. It works with the HTML, but they are completely separate. In fact, they go on separate pages. We literally separate them into two different pages. So we'll skip that video. Skip. So what we need to do is we need to talk about the different parts of CSS. So the whole thing is called a rule set, and this is how we want an element to be styled. So this whole thing is called a rule set. And like I said before, this is how we're going to style the H1 tag. We're going to make it red. So the whole thing is called a rule set. And now we need to go through and talk about each of these parts of the rule set. And the first one's going to be the selector. This is the part of the rule set that tells us which element we're going to apply the rules to. So this is called a rule, and this is the selector. Okay, so in this example, the H1 is the selector. For now, we're going to use tags as our selector, but there are different things that we can put in here as the selector. But for now, we're just using tags. The other parts are the property and the value. The property is what we want to change. So we're going to change, in our example, we're going to change the color. And the value is what we're going to change it to. So we're going to change the color red. So property and value. When we put those two things together, instead of saying property and value and property and value and property and value, we just call it a declaration. That's those two things put together. Notice how we write a declaration. It is our property, colon, value, semicolon. The reason we need this semicolon is because we can put in as many declarations as we want, but we need to separate them so that the code knows, which is which. So that's why we put in this semicolon. So the rule set is the whole thing. The selector is just this H1. It's the element we want to style. The declaration is the rule. The property and value. The property is the first part. Value is the second part. All right, let's put it in action in the web lab. So if you go back to your Canvas page, you can click on here. And remember, we got to go to View Code and Remix. View Code and Remix. Okay, so over here you can see we got 2 pages. Make sure that we're looking at page 1, the index page. We'll come back to page 2 later, but right now stay on the index page. It should say, let's make this heading red at the top. If it says, why isn't this heading red, go back to your index page. And I said before, we separate the HTML and the CSS into different pages. So this is obviously this is our HTML page. So this is where we put all of our HTML code. When we go here, this is where we put our CSS code. It's a style sheet or CSS page. And all we're going to do is we're going to go through this list and make these changes. So it says, let's make this heading red. That's an H1. So we're just going to type in our example, H1, curly brace, enter. Okay, that's how you should start every rule set. H1, curly brace, enter. And that it automatically formats it for you. It gives you the second curly brace. It indents where you're supposed to indent. And the first one we want to do is we want to make this red. So we're going to go color, red, semicolon. It turns our H1 red. You should be, if I didn't say before, you should be following along. Make sure you go to your Canvas page here and follow this link, view code and remix, so that you can follow along and do this. So you should be following along, making yours look like mine. Second thing says, let's make this heading blue. Well, I don't know what type of heading that is, so I can always go back to my index page and find it. Here it is. And I can see that's an H2. So my H2 is going to be my selector. So H2, curly brace, enter. And this one we're going to make blue. The next one says, see if you can make this paragraph have yellow text on a blue background. So I'm going to use, it is a paragraph, so right there. So I'm going to use a P tag. Or sorry, I'm using my P as my selector, curly brace, enter. And I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to have 2 declarations in this one. So I'm going to go color, yellow. I got to end it with my semicolon. And then I hit enter. And I'm going to make this on a blue background. So the property for background is background. Easy enough. Notice this one, I've got 2 declarations in my rule set. And they're both inside of the curly brace. So I got a curly brace up here, I got a curly brace down here, and I got my 2 selectors, 2 declarations in here. I can have as many declarations in here as I want. Okay, so right now we're just doing color, but you can also, we'll do the next one. You can change where things line up. So this says 1, 2, 3, make this list centered. I know what selector to use because it says 1, 2, 3 right here. That is an ordered list. So OL, curly brace, enter. And it wants it to center it, so I'm going to go text align is the property. Text align, center, semicolon. And it centered my text here. And this next one says move this text to the right. And that is it's bullet lists or bullet points, so it is an unordered list. And we'll do the same thing. Text align, right, semicolon. And then at the bottom here it says make this font look fancy. I don't know what selector this I need to use here because I'm not sure what tags this uses. So I'm going to go back and check it out. It says right here, make this font look fancy. Those are H3s. So I'm going to go H3, curly brace, enter. And for this one, we're going to do a font family. Font family, and I'm going to go with monospace. Semicolon. You can see it changed the font. So you can see I have all my selectors all lined up. I got all my declarations. They're also all lined up. And it makes it really easy. If I were to have a whole bunch of code here, it makes it really easy to go, oh, I need to change this OL. And you can go find your OL selector or your OL rule set by looking for the selector, making changes here if you need to. So last thing we want to do though is we want to look at this page 2. So obviously on page 1, I've got all this style. I've got this is red and this is blue and this is yellow and this is centered. But if I click on page 2, I got nothing. I don't want to have to make a style sheet for every page of my website. If I got 100 pages, I don't want to have to make 100 style sheets. So what I do is use the link tag. Hop back on your notes real quick, put this into your notes. The link tag is a little bit of code that goes in the head of our HTML page. And what it does is it links an HTML page with a CSS page. This is the code right here. So it's telling it to link this page to a style sheet called style.css. And whenever you make a web lab on the index page, it automatically links it to the style.css style.css page right here. So this link is always there in on our index page when we make a new web lab. And if for some reason it gets deleted, you can always go back and add that. You can make multiple style sheets by clicking Add CSS. So you could add multiple style sheets. So if you have 4 pages and you want 2 to look one way and 2 to look another way, you can do that. You can have 2 different style sheets. But for this one, we're just going to use the same one. We just want this style. We want all of these rules to be applied to this page. So all we need to do is we're going to just copy this code because it's the same link, and we're just going to add it to the head of our style sheet here, or our HTML page here. So we're just adding that code there, and you can see as soon as I do that, all my rules get applied. So this is red, this is blue, this is yellow. And that is the basics of CSS. What I would like you to do now is go to code.org. We are on lesson 6, bubbles 5 through 6. If you just go to back to your Canvas page, it's right there. There's the link. Or you can go back to the agenda, and it's on there as well. So make sure you got the web lab. If you need to go back and look at it again, you can. Pause when you need to pause. I know I went a little fast. Make sure you got all your notes. Again, pause if you need to pause. Get all your notes, and then do the bubbles on code.org.